The Apartment Gurus podcast is brought to you by Greenlight Equity Group, an apartment acquisitions and holdings firm co-founded by Carl York and Tate Siemer, host of this show. We offer you the opportunity to be an owner of cash-flowing, wealth-growing apartments without the headaches of being a landlord. These assets are recession-resistant, risk-mitigated, offer significant tax advantages, and are a great alternative to the stock market. Ready to check it out? Go to www.investwithgreenlight.com today to book a personal consultation with Carl or Tate. Again, that's investwithgreenlight.com. We look forward to meeting you. Welcome to The Apartment Gurus, where twice a week, host Tate Siemer brings you deep dive interviews with the wisest gurus in the apartment investing industry. These experts are sure to create game-changing value and inspiration designed to catapult your business to the next level. Be sure to reach out to Tate at www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. And now, here is Tate Siemer and the Apartment Gurus.
Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Apartment Gurus podcast. And I love episodes where we get to mingle with the ladies on the show and have powerful women entrepreneurs. And today is one of those days. I've got Angie Aki on the show. And Angie is just an amazing entrepreneur here in the multifamily commercial real estate space. She has done an awful lot since she left her W-2 about 5 years ago, right, Angie?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So she's been a co-GP. She's been a limited partner. She's been a fund manager. She's done some private lending. And her background is in sales and marketing. So we're going to talk about leaving the corporate world of, in the world of pharmaceutical sales and get into how Angie made her transition into this space that we all love and want to really thrive and succeed in. And Angie's doing just that. So, Angie, I'm really excited to have you on the show. Welcome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Tate. Appreciate it.
You betcha. You betcha. So just right off the bat, everybody, go check out Ohana Investment Partners.com.
Partners.
I'm sorry. You got it. I can read that. Ohana Investment Partners.com. There you go. And Ohana is of course, the Hawaiian word for family, right? Am I right about that? Mm-hmm. Good. And so, yeah, check out the website. It's a beautiful website, and you'll see Angie's team and their strategies. There's some good resources there. And also check out Angie on LinkedIn. Angie Aki is AKI. So you have those references in front of you. But Angie, you have done so much, and you left your corporate life age of 40 to focus on real estate full time and real estate investing full time. And now you're living your dream, your entrepreneurial dream. So tell us a little bit about, how you got to where you are and about, your background professionally and making that switch into real estate.
Sure, absolutely. So I spent about little over 18 years in pharmaceutical sales, close to or right around 20 years in sales in general. And so I did really well in sales. I love sales. I'm one of those people, I don't know, right? I know a lot of people get a little intimidated by sales or they don't want to sound salesy. I don't know what that means. I love sales. So it's what I know. And I did that for a long time. I had a great job, to be honest. I like to say I had a really great golden handcuffs because it, quite frankly, was probably not the most difficult job in the world. I had flexibility. I made great money, and people literally told me I was nuts for leaving. I had people tell me I was crazy. I had people tell me I would never make as much money. The list goes on and on and on. And but I left in July of 2019 because it just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I hit President's Club. So for those of you that don't know, that's like the pinnacle of a sales career, right? You get the sales trip award. I hit that in 2018, and then I left the following year. And it just wasn't, I checked all the boxes. I did really well. And I just had no passion for it. I just felt like I should be doing something else. And so I thought about it. I prayed about it. And I was like, okay, leave, right? Real estate investing. And I had stumbled upon real estate investing in a residential component. So I started wholesaling real estate full time. And for those of you that don't know what wholesaling is, in essence, you get a property under contract and then you find a buyer and you assign that contract to a buyer and you get the delta or the margin. So it is, it really took my sales and marketing expertise and skill set and put it to work. And quite frankly, I think it's probably one of the fastest ways to cash in real estate investing. So I did that for a few years. And although it's the fastest path to...
Sorry, were those single families?
They were.
Okay,
they were single families.
Got it.
So although it is a really fast path to cash in real estate investing, I realized I was the same hamster on a different wheel. And right around that time, it was July, something's with me in July, right? So I left my job July of 2019, July of 2021, I attended my first apartment or multifamily boot camp. And all the lights went off in my head, right? Like the light bulb went off. I went, oh my gosh, this is it. I'm a really logical person. I love numbers. I don't like a lot of emotion in things. And so for me, because of the way commercial real estate is valued, right, based on financials, and it's very black and white, I went, oh my gosh, how have I not figured this out before? Why didn't I know about this? And all the real estate investing training or education I got was all in residential. And a lot of people feel like they have to, quote unquote, start out in residential real estate, which is 1 to 4 units. And if you're listening to this, don't believe that. Right. You can totally jump right into commercial. And I wish that I had.
Yes.
But I found out about commercial real estate investing, and that was in July of 2021. And then I decided to shut down my wholesaling business. And so I wrapped it up in Q4 of 2021. I'm a jump in with 2 feet kind of girl. So when I decide I'm going to do something, I burn the boat so I can't go back, and I go full in. So I went full into commercial real estate investing and syndications in January of 2022. So just a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
And have done quite a lot in a short amount of time. And I absolutely love it. It has been a game changer for me personally. And my goal is to get out there and educate as many people as possible about it, so it can be a game changer and wealth builder for others.
Talk a little bit about what you were able to accomplish in the last year.
Yeah, so the last year, I have an equity position in over 800 doors, either as a co-GP, an LP, or a fund manager, which is really significant in a year. I was able to help investors place over $1.67 million. And so and a lot of it is education, right? So I'm hosting webinars, holding community events. I started my own women's meetup group here locally in Orlando. It started out as real estate, and now we've expanded it to other women in business of all varieties. So those are just some of the things I've done in the past year, but I'm pretty excited. I feel like I've done quite a bit, and I'm really excited for 2023 as well. So we're going to crush it this year.
There you go. Well, and on that note, do you have, I'm sure you're probably a goal-oriented person. Most of us have goals. Do you have an annual goal for this year?
For capital placed?
Or unit count, or any of it, yeah.
So for me, because I am very investor focused and focused a lot on investor relations, mine is helping investors place $6 million in private equities. So that's my goal.
Nice. $6 million in it.
So we're going to hit $6 million. It's going to be amazing. And that $6 million will help generate wealth for families. And I'm a firm believer in the ripple effect. So that will do a lot of good for individuals, families, and communities.
Yeah. And are these going to be funds that you syndicate into your own your own deals? Are you looking to, are you looking to co-GP, quote unquote, with other sponsors? How are you looking at that?
So I do often co-GP or create or run funds. So either as a fund manager or a co-GP. I am not, I have such an immense sales and marketing background, and that's my happy place. That is my strength. So operationally, that's not my favorite thing, right? So my goal is to partner with really experienced and stellar operators and come in as a co-GP and work with them so that we're leveraging each other's strengths. Yeah. So I love working with people. That's one of my favorite things about syndications, right? You work as a team. Right. And I think that's so powerful because where it may not be my strength to focus on operations, it may be your strength, right? And then together, what can we do? And we can do quite a bit more.
Yeah. Are you focused exclusively on raising capital, or do you also underwrite, create deal flow, that sort of thing?
So I do a little bit of deal flow. I will underwrite, so I can underwrite. It's not my favorite thing to do. I can also pour through legal docs and go through all that, right? And work through due diligence. Again, not my favorite thing to do. The deal flow is more through my relationships and my network. Yeah. So I'm a really big network person, but my primary focus is investor relations and capital.
Yeah, it seems like that's perfectly suited for, we talked a little bit before so we started recording, and I asked you what your superpower was, and you said your superpower is people. And you got to know your superpower, and you got to double down on it and really maximize your superpowers. And investor relations is the perfect place to have a skill set, a superpower like people, being a people person, being a connector, somebody that inspires, somebody that's persuasive, somebody that can move the needle in conversations and in deals and everything else, and legitimately help people. And I can tell just by the way that you phrase things and have described, your path, that you're doing all of this really for the right reasons. Like there's a real element of service behind some of the things that you've said, and putting your investors first and getting them into the best possible deals, best possible situations, least amount of risk. You're doing that by leveraging great sponsors who know how to run a deal, very, very well, likely better than you could do on your own. Right. So, and that's
definitely,
yeah. And that's a very, very smart thing to do. It's not only the smart thing to do, it's the right thing to do in multifamily because, Angie, as you said, to your point, it's a team sport.
It is.
And yeah, so, you as an entrepreneur, listeners, like one of the, this game is sourcing deals, sourcing dollars, and then managing the assets. But building a team is foundational. Like you got to do that before you do any of the other three things. And when I say building a team, I'm not necessarily talking about an internal team, although it can be that, but building those strategic partnerships, right? The collaborations that with other operators, other capital raisers, other entrepreneurs in the space, so that you can, in your words, Angie, leverage each other's skill sets and leverage each other's experience, strengths, et cetera, so that everybody wins.
Absolutely. It's a mastermind mentality, right? So it's like 1 + 1 = 3. Yep. So when we come together and we have different skill sets, we can do so much more, and we can perform much better, which means the asset can perform much better, which means, right, the investors are happy. And I tell investors this all the time, they're very valuable. Without their capital, without their trust, our deals don't happen. Our syndications don't happen.
That's right. So
we need them. And they're an integral part of our team. And that is truly how, in my mind, they're treated, right? They are part of our team. So it's a lot of fun.
Let's deep dive a little bit into how you have attracted your investors. What avenues, what vehicles, what venues, what rooms did you get in? how do you go about doing that, building your investor base, building your investor list, et cetera?
So two ways, right? And I'm always growing it. So primarily up until this point, my investor base has come from relationships here locally in the community or through, so I will, I've spoken at events before. So I'm pretty out there in the community. Again, back to the sales and marketing background. I love networking. I really do enjoy it. So I will go and network. I love speaking at events and inspiring people and telling my story and helping people realize what is possible, because if I can do something, they can do it, right? Or if you can do it, Tate, right? Someone else can do it. Yeah. Not to take something away from someone, but I'm like, why not you? So a lot of my investor base to date has been through networking, through my relationships, and through speaking engagements, I would say. Okay. Now, a lot of it is coming from, I am getting investors from LinkedIn. I recently hired a marketing company that focuses a little bit more on SEO, hosting online events, setting up some local events. And those are things, right? So some of those local events aren't scalable, but it's what I love. So I'm like, well, now I'll do a hybrid, right? So we'll do some virtual events so we can reach people that are not in Orlando. And then we'll do some in-person events too. And I found that although in-person events are not necessarily scalable, what is important is sitting down and having that conversation and seeing someone's face, because it's when someone, right? You have to know, like, and trust someone before you do business with them. And so that where you may have fewer people in the room, those relationships I find grow much, much faster and become deeper relationships, at least initially.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And to me, it's why in-person events are still leveraged, is because you cannot even begin to, on a Zoom meeting like we're on right now, you can't begin to replicate the power of shaking somebody's hand, looking them in the eye and smiling. And you do that with an investor, and the chances of them investing with you just went up exponentially. So
absolutely.
So I love your approach to the kind of a hybrid, get some in-person events and do some online virtual events as well. You're hitting both areas nicely, but like listeners, big takeaway there, the power of proximity, the power of in-person meetings. If you have an investor lead and there's anything you can do to meet with them, even if they're out of town or whatever it is, it's almost always worth it, because you're going to, the results you'll get, whether or not they invest with you at all or how much they invest with you, that sort of thing, the results will just be so much greater than emails and webinars and pitch decks and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And they get to know you, right? They know I have a 9-year-old, right? That is, I think, bouncing a soccer ball against the house right now, but they know, right? And they know where they've seen you, and likely that they will see you there again. Right. So they know where to find you. Sure.
And you just become visible and become somebody that they put on their radar as an expert, resource, everything else. I'm on the board of the Utah Investor Real Estate Association, the Utah Real Estate Investor Association. There we go. I can talk. And the Utah RIA is what we call it. And, I give little announcements here and there, up front in front of 100 people. I've been the keynote a couple times. I've been on panels a couple times, and those do make a difference. And, that thought leadership, establishment of credibility through thought leadership, it really, really does move the needle. So, for listeners, like, one really great way to become a thought leader is to get on as many of these daggone podcasts as you can. And, if you do, like I do 2 of these episodes a week, so that's 104 episodes a year. If you do, 20 episodes of everybody's different podcast, you're going to reach more people than I will. in my just by virtue of going to 20 different audiences. So
my goal is one a week. Sorry.
There you go.
To interrupt you.
No, that's perfect. That's 50 a year. I mean, that is going to make a huge difference in your business. So listeners, think about that, whether it's speaking in public at a real estate specific event or an investor or entrepreneurial event, starting your own meetup, getting involved with helping somebody else put on a meetup, your local RIA. Almost every city has a RIA, a real estate investor association. Make use of those resources. And, I think since COVID, we've all gotten really good at the online virtual meetup thing. And it's kind of become the norm, and meeting in person is a novelty. And actually one of the things I wanted to circle back on, is kind of related to this, but it's that you were in single family wholesaling, which is a grind. It's a tough paycheck and you're not building anything, right? You're doing one-off deals and you're not building anything long-term, but you went from that. And then you went to, in July of 21, you went to a boot camp, a multifamily specific boot camp that you probably paid for. And it changed your life. It changed your whole world. It was the big aha moment for you. And I have a very similar story. Ironically, a deal came along for us before anything else at all. It was a little 12-unit deal that a wholesaler brought to us, as a matter of fact. But, and we didn't know anything about apartments at that point. But once we figured out how great that deal was, we realized that the whole space was great, and even better the bigger you got. So I went to immediately sign up for the first conference I could find. And I'll never forget that weekend. Like, it completely shifted things for me. And it was the first time I got my head around, like, okay, I can do this. Like, and the power of being in a room with a couple hundred or 500 or 800 people that are all doing what you want to do, and some of them at very high levels. There's a leveling up that I think happens in your mindset when you're in a room like that, because the norms in a room like that are much higher than your norms probably. But we're all very adaptable, and we can all look around a room and say, you know what, that person's doing it, and nothing against that person, but if they can do it, I can do it. There's such a power in that. So do you still get to a lot of conferences?
So I did last year. I did a lot of research and vetting and meeting operators and GPs that I would work with. So I went to a lot of real estate investing and commercial real estate conferences. This year I will go to probably one or two. So my focus this year is to go to conferences where I will find my investors, or I've sponsored some local conferences here. Because I spent so long in pharmaceutical sales and called on hospitals and physicians and surgeons for so long, there are a lot of the investor type that I end up talking to, or high income earning sales reps, just because that's my world. So I've recently sponsored a conference here, and I'm looking to sponsor some more. So that's my goal for this year, where last year it was primarily focused on, okay, like you mentioned before, Tate, building out your team. And that doesn't have to be an internal team within your company. It can be an external team. So I spent a lot of time doing that and spending time at real estate conferences. And then this year I will focus on other types of conferences or sponsoring them.
Are you coming out to Best Ever conference in Salt Lake?
You know what? I was going to, and I decided not to, because I weighed, right? So I said, okay, I can go out and I can pay XYZ. I don't remember exactly what it was for Best Ever, or I can sponsor, I think it was 3 or 4 local events here where I could be in my investors. And I went, I think the best ROI for me is going to be local. So I decided not to go. And quite honestly, sometimes those decisions are hard to make. So, right. I would love to meet you in person. There's so many people I know going to Best Ever, and I would love to be there, but it was one of those business decisions. And I'm like, well, what's best for my business and what will get me? So, right. It's like, what will get me closer to my goal for the year, right? If I really want to hit 6 million, how am I going to get there?
Yeah. And I just don't want to miss this point, because, whether it's a boot camp, like, in a boot camp, most listeners probably know this, but it's basically just a 2-3 day class on really deep diving in how to do this business. And there's some real good ones out there where you can, pay a few $100s, whatever it is, get a crash course in investing. And my hunch is that it's either going to really light you up like it did with Angie, or it's not really going to resonate with you, and you'll know that it's not maybe for you. But the payoff, the return on doing that, if you think this may be, or very well may be for you, doing something like that, whether it's a boot camp, a national conference, an event, go immerse yourself and get in the space with all these other investors, and you'll know if it's the space for you to be in. And then, just the power of mentorship, coaching, the power of proximity, just can't be stated enough. And to me, the conferences are the best bang for the buck. I think paid masterminds are awesome too. And I have one myself, with an awesome group of elite investors. But if you want, in a couple of days with a few $1,000s to really transform your mindset, transform your business, transform your network, consider these conferences. Like, they just, or boot camps or whatever it is. But the intellectual events are so worth doing in this space, I found.
They are. And, people ask me, I've done, I recently read a book and it talks about always measure backwards, right? So as an entrepreneur, and I don't know if you suffer from the same, but I'm a type A personality, right? So I was like, here's my goal, like, go, go, go. Mm-hmm. But it helps you understand how important it is to look back at all that you've accomplished. Yeah. And the reality is, when I look back, I'm like, holy cow, I've done a lot in a short amount of time, right? And I quit my job in July of 19, right? So time is flying by, but however many years, so it's not quite 4. So I've done so much in that amount of time, but a lot of it is attributed to going to conferences, joining masterminds, reaching out to people. I'll never forget the first conversation. I said, I think I want to do syndications. I really think I want to focus on investor relations, right? And focus on getting the capital for these syndications. And I kept seeing this person on social media. And I was like, I want what she has, right? So I sent her a message. I was like, hey, can we hop on a call? And of course we hopped on a call, right? And I'm like, I want to be where you are. What should I do? Right. And she's like, well, I joined this mastermind or this group, and I think you should do that. And I did that. And then within 6 months, I was like, okay, I feel like I need more. And I joined another mastermind. But it's just, I did that with wholesaling too. I joined a mastermind because you can figure it all out on your own, but it's going to cost you a lot because you're going to fail harder, right? And I'm all about failing forward. So I don't want people to misinterpret that, but it's going to cost you more because your failures will monetarily cost you so much more. Yeah. But if you really want to fast track, it is in masterminds and surrounding yourself with the right people. And the people, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. Right. Sometimes I sit in a room and we go to some of these masterminds or these retreats and I'm like, oh man, my goals look like peanuts, right? Like people are blowing it out of the water. And I always want to be in that position because it makes me strive for more and dream for more and plan for more. So absolutely, I'm 100% on board. Masterminds, I think are great, and conferences and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So what for you is like, maybe not the secret sauce, because that's probably oversimplifying it, but if you were to look at like this magical year that you've had, and for listeners, like Angie's the perfect example of what can happen in such a short period of time in this business. We at Greenlight, many of you know, we went from owning 0 doors to owning just under 600 doors in about 18 months. And so thank you. That was, obviously a big growth period for us too. Last year was a little weird for us, but with the interest rates and whatnot. But the year before, 2021, was insane for us. So if you could attribute that growth, that rapid expansion in your business to something, or maybe a few things, what would those be?
I would say taking action, consistency, right? And just telling everyone what you do. So, and again, back to the sales background, right? So I go to what I know, but any part of sales, anything you do, you have to show up, you have to take action, and you have to do it consistently. Otherwise, you're not going to see results. If you do the right things over and over again, you will get the results you want. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to keep at it. So you have to take action consistently. And it's so important. And it doesn't have to be, there's a lot of, and when I started out in real estate and investing, it was like, take massive action and do that. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be something major. Maybe it's just showing up. Maybe it's doing one podcast a week. Maybe it's underwriting, 10 deals a week or something like that. But you have to take action consistently to see the results you want. And it will at some point, right? It's like steering a cruise ship instead of a tugboat, right? Because your commercial real estate is like a cruise ship. So you'll get to where you want to be. It's just going to take a little bit more time. But if you're consistently turning that wheel, that's what makes a difference. And having a great mindset and attitude.
I was just going to say, what about mindset? That was what about mindset?
I almost forgot about it. And that is my thing, right? I think mindset is the foundation of every bit of success that I have seen. And quite frankly, I think it's almost everyone that I am connected with that I consider successful. They have an amazing mindset, right? So it all starts with mindset. That is the foundation that the house is built on, right? Or the apartment complex is built on, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
It is so important. And so for some people that's having a miracle morning. I apparently have one. I've never read the book, but I guess I have one. But every single day, I am focusing on my mindset and practicing some type of mindset practice, whether it's meditation, affirmations, Bible study, prayer, all of the above. Reading, I'm an avid reader. So I read, I'm constantly reading or listening to books. So my husband's like, there's books everywhere, right? Audio, whatever. I'm like, yes, they're everywhere. Yeah. So I think mindset it's so important. And you have to believe, right? You have to believe that you can do it. Yeah. You have to.
That's it. I mean, to me, like if I had to boil it down, it's either the belief that you can or the belief that you can't.
And you're right either way, right?
You're right either way. And look, if you believe that you can do it and you do what Angie said, which is consistent action, you will be unstoppable. And I love that word, unstoppable. Like, it's just, if you have this mindset that I can do this and I'm not going to quit till I do, and nothing's going to stop me ultimately, like, you can't lose. You cannot lose in this business. On the other hand, if you've got a limiting belief that I can't do this, and you go out and you still do the same things, it's probably not going to work. It's just about impossible to get past a belief that you can't do something. It's not a you'll believe it when you see it thing, in my opinion. It's you'll see it when you believe it thing. Yeah. And that gets back to leverage. Like, if you need to see it to believe it, well, see this guy doing it over here, right?
Yep.
Or get in on his deal as an LP, or hire a coach that's done this dozens of times. Like, pay a coach to cut your timeline down from 3 years to 6 months, like 15 grand, 20 grand, whatever it is, to hire a coach for that kind of timeline condensation or condensedness. What's the word? There's a word, compression. That's
compression. There you
go. When you can compress a timeline, look, and avoiding costly errors that Angie was talking about, like, those errors can be not just costly directly, but very costly indirectly, because if you lose investors' money or don't get them returns that they were expecting, they won't invest with you again. Mm-hmm. And if paying somebody to teach you how to do all this right out of the gate is what it takes to do it, figure it out. Get a credit card with that limit on it, and just borrow money, do whatever it takes to invest in yourself and get that person or group or whatever it is in your corner, so that you have the support that you need. And to
that's
me,
a big thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please do. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a big thing too, is reaching out to people, right? It's like, and I've done some mindset coaching as well, but it's when you're overcoming limiting beliefs, it's important, especially if I'm a really logical person again, right? So if I don't think I can do it, I'm struggling, and I know that's a limiting belief, you have to reach out to people like Tate said that are doing it and ask them. Don't be shy about it. If I'm calling Tate, I'm like, man, you're crushing it and you're doing really well with this. And I'm just, I don't see how I'm going to get there, right? Pick up the phone. Call Tate, join, if he's got a mastermind group, you can look at that too, but reach out to people and ask and say, hey, and I've simply had that conversation before. Hey, I'm struggling with this. This is my limiting belief. I see you as successful. I was wondering if you would talk to me and help me overcome my limiting belief I've asked people to open their books, open their business plan, show me what their business looks like. Right. So, and I've not had anyone tell me no. And the people that I've run across, and maybe it's the people I surround myself with in this industry, when commercial real estate's pretty small, everyone's been so great and so helpful.
Yeah. I love that.
So, just ask, right? If you need something, ask. If you're struggling with something, ask, because no one knows that you are unless you're vocal about it. It's like no one knows what you do unless you tell people. Same.
Right. And that's how you leverage other people's confidence, experience, knowledge, everything else, is calling them and saying, hey, I'd love to be doing what you're doing. Like, hook me up. Can you kind of tell me how you did that? And then, of course, the next level of doing that is paying somebody to do that. And then you're on, like, when you've got that commitment from them to your success, then it's on. But like you said, Angie, this is such a generous space, as far as people sharing, and there's an abundance mindset in this space that there's plenty for everybody. Right. And so, it's like this podcast, people come on this podcast with $1 billion portfolios and they open up their playbook and say, this is how I did it. They're not worried about somebody coming along and taking their piece of the pie. It's like,
right.
And very few people in this space are. In fact, I think if anything, it's the opposite. I think most of us realize that the more value we contribute to each other, the better. And so for me, I love to hear from listeners of this podcast. For instance, I have often publicized my Calendly link on our website. These days I'm getting so busy, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing that, but I love 10-minute calls, 15-minute calls with a colleague that, maybe has a bottleneck that they're not quite sure what to do about. And if I have the resources or the knowledge or whatever it's going to take to get them past that makes me feel so dang good. Like I seriously love that. I love every part of that. And I don't know how or why it's going to come back to me, but I know it will. And I don't really worry about it or even think about it very much, because that's just kind of how I roll, And so if you're coming from
go-giver mentality, right?
Go-giver mentality.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Great book. Absolutely. So, we talked a little bit about, getting 6 million placed this year in 2023. Any other exciting plans, maybe beyond just the year vision? Do you have, a grand vision, or are you kind of going year by year? How do you handle that?
So I am going year by year. My goal is to grow my business, right? And then grow it to a point and then start sunsetting off. So my husband and I have a goal to retire within about 10 years.
Nice.
So maximum. So we want to be able to do that. And that's going to be difficult. I love what I do, but I can scale it back, right? And maybe roll out a few offerings a year, maybe just do less. But my primary focus is on this year. I'm also trying to balance a little bit more with work and personal life. So one of my goals is to take 16 weeks off of work
Nice.
And that's a lot, right? And I get it. People are like, what are you doing? And then my goal is to add, 2 to 4 weeks every year, right? Until it's like,
Awesome.
oh, I'm now taking 50 weeks off, right? And so that forces me to take time off, which is great for myself and my family, but that also forces me to put systems in place so that my business can run when I'm not around. And so that forces me, that's not my strength, right? Because I talked about operations is not great, but that forces me to put operations and systems in place so that my business can still run while I'm not, I'm not physically here, or I'm sitting on the beach, or whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of my big, hairy, audacious goals.
I love that goal. 4 months off a year. Heck yeah.
Right?
That is awesome.
Sounds great.
I thought I was cool when I did a month last year in Mexico in November, but
that's pretty cool.
It was cool for me. It was a kind of a first, and it was awesome. But I worked, I was working remotely pretty regularly, like almost every work day. So, instead of having the systems and processes in place, I had me in place with a Wi-Fi connection and a phone. So, but it still was awesome. I love that goal for you. Well, I mean,
I'll
Angie,
report back after this year.
Yeah, please do. I'm just so impressed with you. I mean, what an amazing story you've written for yourself, taking your skills and your superpowers from being in sales and marketing for, better part of 20 years and starting your dream, and not only starting it, but crushing it in year one, boom, that's awesome. I mean, you're managing funds, that's just fantastic. So
thank you.
Congratulations on everything and all your success. And if there's ever anything that we can do for you here at Greenlight, we'd love to help out however we can. And if listeners want to get in touch with you, learn more about you, connect with you, et cetera, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can go to my website. Again, that's ohanainvestmentpartners.com. You can also find me at LinkedIn. It's under Angie Aki. So you'll find me there. You can find me on Facebook as well. But those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome. I'm sorry I was mispronouncing your name, Angie
Aki. People do it all the time.
I should have asked that.
Once I say it sounds like here in Spanish, then people are like, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah.
So not a big deal. You're not the first, and you won't be the last.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, so Angie Aki, everybody, thank you so much, Angie, for being on the show. Really appreciate your insight and your inspiration. You're very inspiring. So, and listeners, hopefully you got a lot out of this. Hopefully our female listeners especially derive some solid inspiration and motivation, and the more role models that we have for boss entrepreneur ladies is the better the world's going to be, in my opinion. So
mine too.
I love having you guys on the show, and love to be supporting however we can. I mean, this is such a boys club industry. I've been on so many either mastermind calls or meetup group calls or whatever, and there's 20 people in the room, and literally every single one is male.
Yep.
So
it's usually me and the boys.
Yeah.
Although I found a little group of women in commercial real estate. But yeah, if you're listening to this and you are a female, by all means, please reach out. I would love to talk to you if it's something you're interested in getting into, or if I can inspire or encourage you in any way. We do need more women at the table, and not to take anything away from the guys, but there need to be more of us. We need to help people, and this is really helping people understand how to grow their wealth, and it's such an important component, both for our communities and our families.
Yeah, what a gift. Awesome. All right, well, thanks again, and Angie, and we will be cheering from you from the sidelines, and look forward to catching up with you maybe in a year or so and seeing how things are going.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Tate. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners, for everything and for being on this episode of the Apartment Gurus. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a rating and review. It means a lot to me personally and to the show. And tell a friend, send a friend the link, and help share the wealth, share the knowledge and the inspiration. So with that, We will see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
This has been the Apartment Gurus with Tate Siemer. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. To contact Tate, go to www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. He loves to hear from you and thanks you for being a valued listener. Just a reminder that you are the guru. See you on the next episode of the Apartment Gurus.